In today's episode of Offbrand Crash Course, we will be discussing an important revolution in our country's history, which is known as the Market Revolution. We will be discussing how the Market Revolution came to be, what times were like during the revolution, and the effects and life after the revolution. Please pay attention to the video because this period in history is very important and will probably be a good use to know about. And yes, I'm talking to you, the person watching this trying to cram all this information in the night before the test. So we are going to break up the revolution in 3 different sections. The first section is talking about how the Market Revolution came to be. Motivations for the revolution were fairly simple when you think about it. The United States was doubling in population and territory, and with all of this growth and expansion, the Republican Party believed that the federal government needed to play a larger role in regulating the nation's trade, money, and expansion of infrastructure. This was new to the government because before they were only the government of a small and developing country. Now that the country was growing significantly in size and presence, the people of the country expected more out of the government and felt that the government should be more than capable of leading them into a successful future.
James Madison was a huge advocate for starting the market revolution. He believed that the government needed to be a stronger and more suited system in order to govern a growing country and lead them into a bright future of everlasting advances in economy and global commerce. Madison also pushed for the creation of various canals, roads, and all other sorts of transportation that would be fit enough to help the country reach its goals and potential in the areas of foreign and domestic trade. This was all said in Madison's letter to Congress, and it holds all of his thoughts and opinions on this matter and what he believed to be the right direction the country should take. Now that the motives of the people are set, action must be taken in order to put this revolution into full effect. But before we dive into the revolution itself, we must consider other events that took place in order to make the market revolution possible. And I am talking about the transportation and technological revolutions. These 2 revolutions were the main catalyst for the market revolution and made this revolution possible. Let's first get into the transportation revolution because this revolution was the birth of faster transport of goods, people, ideas, and so much more. This revolution broke boundaries in trade because people were so used to their normal trade times of weeks or even months. So when advances in transportation such as roads, canals, and major railroads came to life, this was a huge deal amongst the people in the nation and allowed for a more efficient and faster trade. The technological revolution started the increase in tech and tools that were given to farmers and industrial workers that allowed for an explosive increase in overall productivity. With these 2 advances in transport and technology, the United States was finally able to make their way into the market revolution. Before we get into that, it's very important to get a good visual understanding of what it's like during these times. On the left, we have images of one of the most famous modes of transport during that time, which was the coal-powered train, and this device was used for almost everything. Below the train, it is accompanied by what train stations looked like during those times, very rugged and straight to the point. On the right, there is an accurate representation of what times looked like during the technological revolution, this being the construction of large factories all over the place filled with men and machinery. Now that we have a good understanding of the build-up to the market revolution, it is time to finally dive into what we all have been waiting for.
The Market Revolution was all about the United States shifting their businesses and trade from independent work to nation and global-wide presence. This means that factories, farms, and other sources that manufacture products allowed their goods to disperse among the country and around the world. Now, because of this, land was constantly getting occupied by large factories and farmland in order to accommodate for the high demand of the goods. The economy was finally starting to show massive advancements and improvements, and also the mindset of the country was shifting into the focus on growing the economy and trade of the United States, thus pushing the country into the heart and soul of the revolution. While we did talk a little about inventions and creations, I do want to take a deeper look into the main inventions and creations that really helped the market revolution become as successful as it did. Firstly, a very important invention that revolutionized the transport of goods was the steamboat. This steam-powered vessel quickly rose to fame after being used plenty of times during the transportation revolution. Since people knew about its efficiency and power, the steamboat was undoubtedly the best mode of transportation that was available to the people. This boat was not only able to travel vast distances around the country quickly, but after further advancements in the technology, was able to travel across oceans at quicker speeds as well. I'm going to bunch roads, railroads, canals, and waterways together because all of these systems follow the same idea. While roads and railroads were created in order to make land travel easier and quicker, canals and waterways were created to do the same exact thing, but on water instead. All these creations serve their purpose and definitely help the success of the market revolution. If you take a look here on the left, these are what the steamboats looked like and also what the canals and waterways looked like during these times. On the right is nothing special, but it's still showing the early advancements Americans were making on roads and railroads. They were simple and to the point, but they got the job done.
Now let's get on to the effects of the market revolution. While the revolution was very important for Americans, positive effects did arise from the revolution, but also some negative effects came to reality as well. Let the positive effects out of the way because at this point they are pretty obvious. While yes, there are major battles or politically charged debates that took the spotlight, the market revolution is easily one of the most beneficial and impactful events in American history. The market revolution built the framework for the United States government and directed the economy and infrastructure, as well as regulating trade and commerce in the country. The amount of opportunity and jobs that grew and stemmed from revolution significantly helped the working industry for the better. Not to mention the communication, transportation, and technology of the revolution started the foundation of an entire field centered around them, making the future of those fields promising. As we said, negative effects did arise from the revolution. One of the most drastic occurrences that came from this period in time was a devastating depression, also known as panics. Those depressions came from there being massive amounts of poverty within the people, since people were often found laboring for low wages. Life became centered around working, and people's lives were revolving around the clock. This makes people overworked and tired, leading people into dreadful, depressing, and long days. There being no laws to protect people that were overworked, people during this time were constantly used and exploited. People weren't used to this style of life yet, since before the market revolution, people were focused on the building of the country and the foundations of it. And then it became centered around the building of economy, which for most was too much to handle.
This just about wraps up the market revolution. Now I hope you all can see why this is one of the most important revolutions in American history. This revolution broke away from the old ways of life and pushed towards the way of life that is still being lived by today. This was the turning point of the country's goals and aspirations, and will always have an impact on our lives. Thanks for tuning in on our first episode of Offbrand Crash Course, and we hope you enjoyed it.